Even they were isolated and abandoned in the Geneva Accord. So whatever is happening in Afghanistan, the world community is equally responsible. But Taliban brought some sanity into their already madhouse society, which was post-war society. So
then 9/11 happens.
Then 9/11 happens. And we know it for fact that Taliban were not destroyed because of their ideology, because of their belief. War on terror was only an excuse. Taliban were destroyed because they had refused to give a gas pipeline contract to Unicol, an American gas pipeline company, from Turkmenistan to Afghanistan to Pakistan to India. That was the TAPI gas pipeline, which Taliban refused to sign the contract for Unicol and signed it with Bridas, an Argentinian company. And the presentation of Unicol is available on record, giving it to the US Congress, saying that now we need a regime change in Afghanistan because the existing Taliban regime has refused contract to the North American oil and gas companies. So this was the reason, that the same reason why the war in Syria is going on today was exactly the reason. And Hamid Karzai, incidentally, was also a consultant to Unicol. And once the regime change took place, Mr. Consultant became Mr. Mayor of Kabul.
Zahid Hamid Sahab, I have to take a break here. Zahid Hamid Sahab, you have just explained the history of Taliban, that how Talibans, they got into place in Afghanistan due to their own internal crisis. Now, how did Pakistan got the baggage of Talibans? Why are we hearing Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan here?
I would like to really clarify this important point because there's lots of confusion on this. Afghan Taliban, as we have explained, are the children of the Afghan Mujahideen. They are Pashtuns, they are local Afghans, they are freedom fighters, they are fighting to liberate their land. Ideologically, they may be harsh because of their tribal customs, but they are Muslims. They are part of the mainstream Muslim community, and they are not terrorists. They don't have any expansionist agenda. Between 1996 and 2001, when they were ruling Afghanistan, they were nationalist local rulers. They were not exporting terrorism or war, or they had not waged a war against Pakistan, they did not wage a war against Iran, they did not wage a war against Central Asia. They were very nationalist local rulers who were only Afghans, wanted to run their own country in whichever way they wanted. And the reason they were invaded was because they were too difficult to handle for the Western oil and gas companies. The corporate interests actually got them removed. Mr. Karzai became the president of Afghanistan because he was also the advisor of Unicol, the gas company which Taliban had refused to give the TAPI gas line contract.
So you think the 9/11 incident, is it been planned after the refusal on this gas pipeline agreement from Afghanistan Taliban?
See, 9/11 incident, when we were doing the last program with you, we also said that it is end of the 20th century. A project for New American Century was designed, in which it was mentioned that America would need a Pearl Harbor to wage a global war. So wars were planned anyway. Even if they had not invaded Afghanistan, they would have invaded Iraq later, and Syria and Libya. Wars were defined already, they were planned. Afghanistan was taken up as a first target because that was critical to be in Afghanistan, because by being in Afghanistan, you actually come in the soft belly of Pakistan and Iran. And this brings us to the second part of your question, who are Pakistani Taliban?
Exactly.
See, Pakistani Taliban are radically different from Afghan Taliban, both ideologically and administratively. Ideologically, Pakistani Taliban belong to a heretic sect called Khawarij or Takfiri in Islam, which believes in waging war against the Muslim societies, which believes in destroying Muslim communities only on the basis of difference of opinion. Afghan Taliban are not like that. Pakistani Taliban are. So ideologically, in the mainstream Muslim thought process, the Pakistani Taliban are considered heretics. They are a sect which is a violent sect, and the whole world actually projects Pakistani Taliban, which are exactly of the same mentality as Ayman al-Zawahiri or all these so-called Al-Qaeda, which the world sees them as Al-Qaeda, are actually belonging to a heretic sect. They do not represent the mainstream Islam at all. In fact, these sect, the so-called Pakistani Taliban and the Takfiri and Kharji sect, actually wage a war against the Muslim societies, not against the West, not against non-Muslims, to be honest. And the Muslim societies have suffered most at their hands. So Pakistan suffered from this ideology, which was created after the Afghan Taliban were removed from Afghanistan. How come? Once you have a group, a sect, which have a anarchic, radical, heretic ideology, it becomes easier for foreign countries to use this group to wage war against Muslim nations. And this is exactly what happened with TTP. TTP are based in Afghanistan. They are supported by CIA and Indian RAW. They are funded, equipment, logistics, weapons, supplies, ammunition, training camps, medical facilities. Everything is based in Afghanistan under NATO and American and CIA protection. And TTP does not wage war against the American occupation in Afghanistan. Unlike Afghan Taliban, who are waging a war against the occupation forces, and Afghan Taliban are not waging a war against Pakistan. On the other hand, TTP is waging a war against Pakistani state. 100,000 Pakistanis have been killed and wounded in the last 7 years.
Right.
And not a single American has been killed by TTP because they are protected, backed, supported by CIA, just as the Free Syrian Army is now being protected, sponsored, equipped, weapons supplied by CIA in Syria. Free Syrian Army is an identical copy of TTP. You see the videos of TTP and you see the videos of Free Syrian Army beheading the soldiers, butchering, killing women and children, suicide bombings, identical scenarios, identical operations, identical handlers, identical ideology. So basically what we are telling you is that CIA and RAW used the environment of Afghanistan. They wanted to destabilize Pakistan also. The Obama's doctrine of AFPAC is now about 7 years old. AFPAC means that Pakistan will also be a battlefield just like Afghanistan is. Pakistan would not be treated as an ally. That's why you find CIA waging a drone war inside Pakistan. That's why you find CIA sending in Balochistan Liberation Army terrorists in Balochistan. That's why you find CIA sending in Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, the insurgents, the religious fanatics, who are waging a war against the very state of Pakistan.
So the stand of these Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, that if drones can be stopped, then we won't be doing any terrorist activities. What is all that?
This is farcical. This is completely farce. This is only propaganda stunt. The handlers of TTP and drones are both CIA. The handlers of TTP are also CIA and RAW, the Indian Intelligence Secret Service. So this is only a propaganda bluff. What happens is, within TTP, the Pakistani Taliban, so many times peace initiatives were taken with them, trying to break off their separate commanders, trying to convince them to have peace deals with Pakistan. But whenever Pakistan would sign a peace deal with one of the TTP commander, a CIA drone would eliminate him. And then the rest of the TTP would start waging their war against the Pakistani state. You see, TTP, a mercenary army, they are not independent to decide peace deals with Pakistan. Whenever some of them try to fall out of line and try to cut a peace deal with Pakistan, they always eliminate 4 or 5 top TTP commanders who tried to cut peace deals with Pakistan have been eliminated by CIA drones. And
So you think
so
this
that's
is
how
what's
CIA